Welcome to 1938. Adolf Hitler is ready to spawn a new drama. First victim, Schuschnigg, the naive Austrian leader who literally loves talking about weather. Diplomat Papin whispers, "Hey Kurt, come to our mountain villa. Scenery is beautiful." Schuschnigg walks inside, completely clueless, and mutters, "Oh, nice weather today." Hitler shatters the desk. "We are not here to talk about the weather." Then, 2 hours of pure psychological torture begins. One single order, and overnight, your ridiculous country will be wiped out. Therefore, a fatal ultimatum from Ribbentrop is thrown directly into his naive face. Look at his trembling hands. Schuschnigg completely loses his nerve. He resigns on radio, weeping. "We are yielding to brute force." Vienna is weeping. Schuschnigg steps down under absolute threat. Meanwhile, in Berlin, Goering actively manipulates the puppet strings. Goering orders, "Send a fake telegram to Berlin right now." "We need a fake excuse to Verheutrot too." Seyss-Inquart trembles, submissively printing the fake plea for help. March 11th. German tanks ruthlessly cross the Austrian border. Hitler returns to Linz, crying tears of pure joy. But in Vienna, a dark nightmare begins for Jews. They are forced to scrub public toilets with toothbrushes. As soldiers laugh, Austria is deleted. Next target, Czechoslovakia. Western powers just stand there, completely freezing in shock. Britain and France choose silence, entirely abandoning the Austrian state. No entry fires. The borders legally collapse without a single fight. Overnight, the independent nation of Austria is completely deleted from history. Hitler smiles at his desk. His brand new conquest is officially signed. The Anschluss is done, but his hunger cannot be satisfied. Therefore, the aggressive tyrant immediately shifts his focus toward the east. Next targeted territory on the supreme master canvas, Czechoslovakia. A peaceful nation with a giant weapon defensive line. A new high-stakes drama is about to explode. Don't blink! With Austria gone, Hitler immediately looks at the geopolitical chessboard. Czechoslovakia is a tough target, protected by heavily armed mountain fortresses. But the frantic dictator refuses to let any border stop his ambition. Therefore, he calls his top generals to plan the ultimate execution. Prepare the mobilization. Our military machine demands absolute territorial control. Goering happily monitors the operational expansion from his cozy Berlin office. A deep silence shadows the room. The trap is quietly set. In Prague, citizens listen to the news, feeling the impending horror. Hitler targets the strategic border area, isolating his next victim step by step. The peaceful Republic of Czechoslovakia will be crushed by force. Flush with his easy Austrian victory, Hitler looks out for more glory. He gathers his operational planners, demanding an immediate blueprint for expansion. The greedy tyrant points his wooden stick. Sudetenland must be ours. This strategic mountain border holds the key to crushing the entire republic. Foreign Minister Ribbentrop smilingly reports, 3 million Germans live there, ready to revolt. Hitler Nechmep, excellent. We will use them to zaynat their sovereignty. Nazi propaganda instantly ignites fierce ethnic tension inside the Sudeten border. Goering rubs his hands with extreme joy, anticipating a massive military loot. The historical countdown ticks away. A dark cloud shadows Central Europe. Czechoslovakia will be completely isolated. No power can save them now. The Austrian annexation is fully complete. Anschluss is now a cold reality. Hitler laughs. His first bloodless conquest is safely sealed in the archive. A dynamic shadow expands, swallowing the peace of neighboring borders. General Beck nervously steps forward, warning that attacking Czechoslovakia means global war. Hitler furiously slaps his warning away, dismissing his top general's fear. General Beck is forced to resign. The last voice of military reason is gone. Hitler unleashes his secret directive, Case Green. My unalterable decision is to smash Czechoslovakia by military force. But the target is heavily armed, boasting a defense line strong as Maginot. A bloody collision is ticking down. Total warfare is about to detonate. Deep panic ripples across Europe. The Sudeten crisis officially begins to boil. Terror paralyzes London and Paris as the threat of another world war hits home. Diplomatic hotlines burn, screaming with frantic alerts from the French border. Hitler publicly roars on German radio. The oppression of Sudeten Germans must end now. His troops mobilize, locking the target inside a military stranglehold. France panics, desperately searching for a back door to escape their treaty. No one wants to fight. The spineless surrender is quietly cooking in London. Ribbentrop contemptuously smiles at the updates. They are weak, my leader. They will bleed. Hitler nech mep, knowing his psychological blackmail is working flawlessly. The stage is set. The naive savior of peace is about to step forward. Sudetenland is on the verge of collapsing. In London, Prime Minister Chamberlain panics, staring at the threat of total war. Therefore, the naive savior decides to pack his blocky bags to beg for peace. Flying for the first time at 69, Chamberlain desperately flies to Germany, dreaming of saving Europe from total destruction. Hitler sits waiting in his mountain cage, amused by the old man's sudden panic. Chamberlain naively offers a golden deal, giving away the strategic Sudetenland territory just to freeze the Nazi military expansion. He honestly thinks the aggressive beast can be satisfied with paper pieces. Hitler easily nods, executing a perfect diplomatic trick. Chamberlain returns home victorious, boastfully telling his ministers that peace is completely guaranteed. A brutal betrayal. Czechoslovakia is completely abandoned by its allies, forced to surrender its defensive fortresses without a fight. Their sovereign territory is instantly sliced. But back in Berlin, the supreme tyrant is furious. He loathes the diplomatic compromise. Hitler shatters the war room. I wanted a real war, not a piece of garbage paper. The illusion of peace shatters instantly. Hitler unilaterally demands more land, tearing down the previous agreement. Chamberlain's cozy tea party is brutally interrupted by absolute panic. Europe enters a dark nightmare. London prepares for air raids while Czechoslovakia fully mobilizes its heavy army, standing firmly behind concrete forts, bracing for impact. Chamberlain speaks on national radio. How horrible to dig trenches because of a quarrel in a faraway country. Hitler listens, laughing at this utter display of cowardice. The tyrant sets a fatal midnight deadline. No more negotiations, only absolute surrender. Sign it, or the German war machine will completely erase Prague. The fatal midnight deadline expires in complete silence. Hitler refuses to extend the timeline, demanding an immediate and unconditional compliance from the Western diplomats. In London, Chamberlain sits in pure isolation, realizing his diplomatic defense is completely broken as the dark hours clock away toward zero. Communication lines stretch to their absolute limits. No answers return from Prague, leaving the entire European continent hanging on a fragile paper thread. Suddenly, Ribbentrop enters with an unexpected message from Rome. Benito Mussolini is stepping in to propose a strategic four-power emergency gathering in Munich. The dynamic tension slows down. Hitler accepts the mediation. Chamberlain receives the formal invitation, feeling an instant relief wash over his face. For the third time, Chamberlain packs his documents, flying straight into Munich, blindly believing this conference is his grand historical masterpiece. September 29th. The Munich conference officially opens at 1:30. 4 big leaders sit down to decide the fate of an absent nation. Hitler forcefully dictates his terms, demanding the immediate separation of Sudetenland. Chamberlain easily agrees, signing the historic peace without hesitation. Locked in an outer room like prisoners, the Czech diplomats are brutally excluded. Chamberlain hands them the final verdict: sign or face absolute doom. The dynamic betrayal is completed. Czechoslovakia is officially sliced apart on a table by its own trusted allies. Before leaving Munich, Chamberlain requests a private document. He happily gets Hitler to sign a separate peace pledge, naively believing this piece of paper binds the German dictator forever. Flying back to London, Chamberlain steps off the aircraft, He triumphantly waves the white paper before the massive cheering crowd, completely historical and proud of his diplomatic victory. He proudly declares to the public, "I believe it is peace for our time." The crowd goes wild, celebrating an illusion that is destined to turn into ash. But inside his private Munich apartment, the furious leader is boiling. He feels cheated. He hated being talked out of his grand military parade into Prague. Hitler shatters his teacup, roaring, "That Chamberlain fellow has completely spoiled my entry into Prague. The paper is nothing. Prepare the next absolute deletion." German administrative units instantly move into the Sudetenland. The fortress line is empty. The Munich Agreement effectively leaves the remaining Czech territories completely open and defenseless. Hitler activates a new political masterpiece, divide and conquer. He turns his focus to internal fractions, plotting to shatter the target from within. He summons the Slovakian representatives to Berlin, presenting them a final choice: declare immediate independence under my shadow, or get entirely erased by surrounding neighbors. The strategy works perfectly. Slovakia proclaims independence, leaving Prague isolated. Chamberlain's paper agreement vanishes into absolute nothingness as the Republic falls apart. The dynamic trap is fully prepared. The final leader of Prague is now forced to enter the lion's den. The historical endgame begins. March 14th, midnight. The elderly and fragile President Hácha arrives in Berlin. Hitler intentionally leaves the old man waiting for hours in complete isolation to break his mental spirit. At 1 a.m., the savage psychological ambush initiates. Hitler viciously corners the trembling president, coldly informing him that the final administrative orders are already signed and unalterable. Hitler roars with extreme fury, "At 6 a.m., my forces will enter Prague. Any dynamic resistance will be utterly crushed by unspeakable mechanical force." Then Goering steps forward to deliver the absolute coup de grace. He smoothly whispers that he would hate to wipe out the beautiful historical architecture of Prague by air. Under this overwhelming pressure, President Hácha suffers a sudden heart attack, collapsing into his chair. German doctors instantly rush in with needles to keep the old man conscious. Resurrected only to sign the death warrant of his own country, Hácha tremblingly puts his signature on the fatal paper, completely surrendering the historic Czech nation to the Third Reich. Hitler bursts into his secretary's room, screaming with pure delight.
This is absolutely incredible!
"Children, this is the greatest day of my entire life. I will enter history as the greatest German." At 6 a.m. sharp, German mechanical columns ruthlessly cross the border under a freezing snowstorm, entering Prague without encountering a single shot of dynamic military opposition. By evening, Hitler is already standing inside the Grand Hradčany Castle of Prague. He looks out from the balcony, triumphantly viewing his brand new, completely absorbed province. The Munich farce is officially over. Chamberlain's peaceful paper is burned into nothing. The insatiable beast turns his finger to the next countdown target: Poland. March 17th. Chamberlain stands before a freezing parliament. His proud illusion of securing peace for his time is completely smashed into cold, bitter, historical reality. The deeply humiliated Prime Minister fiercely changes his core policy, loudly announcing absolute territorial guarantees to Poland. London officially wakes up from its spineless, naive diplomatic sleep. In Berlin, Hitler contemptuously listens to the British updates. He completely mocks their sudden defensive posture, knowing the Western warning comes way too late to stop his engine. The insatiable dictator immediately instructs his military team to draft a brand new strategic operation, Case White. The machinery of absolute conquest targets its next fragile neighbor. He demands the immediate return of Danzig territory. The dynamic border pressure rapidly shifts from Prague to Warsaw, pushing the global clock closer to a massive collapse. A heavy gloom settles over Downing Street. Chamberlain desperately attempts to forge a defensive alliance with Moscow, realizing he holds no cards left to play. However, Ribbentrop plays a MasterCard behind the scenes. He smoothly orchestrates a secret channel's contact with Berlin's biggest ideological enemy to secure a non-aggression promise. The shocking Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact is secretly prepared. This unnatural diplomatic marriage will completely seal the fate of Central Europe, removing the last blockade from Hitler's path. The British strategy is utterly paralyzed. The secret deal isolates Poland completely, leaving the entire Western guarantee looking like a fragile piece of cardboard paper. All diplomatic barriers are broken. The ultimate geopolitical trap is fully loaded. The countdown to the ultimate world catastrophe strikes zero. August 23rd in Moscow. Foreign Minister Molotov and Ribbentrop finalized the shocking non-aggression pact. The two ideological enemies officially shake hands on a secret plan to partition Poland. The news hits London like a thunderbolt. Chamberlain realizes his entire diplomatic defense has completely dissolved, leaving the Western alliance isolated and powerless before the coming storm. Hitler laughs at his brilliant trick. With the Soviet threat removed, he is now free to launch his absolute military solution. No more papers, only the rhythmic march of conquest. The dynamic countdown reaches its terminal point. All diplomatic bridges are officially burned. The greedy tyrant focuses his iron gaze on the final target as the historical clock strikes midnight. September 1st, 1939. The German machinery ruthlessly initiates Case White. Massive mechanical columns flood across the Polish border, officially igniting the greatest catastrophe in human history. Chamberlain's peace for our time turns to dust. His fragile paper is consumed by the flames of total war, proving that his naive trust was a fatal historical mistake. 2 days later, the broken prime minister speaks again. Everything that I have worked for has tumbled into ruins. London finally declares war on Germany. The insatiable beast has finally unshackled the dynamic monster of total warfare. The Munich farce was merely a convenient stepping stone, designed to lure the naive into an absolute trap. Hitler stands as the temporary master of the continent. Austria deleted, Czechoslovakia erased, Poland under the knife. His aggressive vision of a new order is built upon shattered promises. The world enters the longest night. The historical lessons of Munich will be written in blood and ash for generations to come. The age of appeasement is dead. The tragedy is set. The actors have played their parts. But for the tyrant, every ending is just the dynamic beginning of a brand new, even darker chapter. History doesn't repeat, but it certainly rhymes. We are back to where it all started. The infinite cycle of ambition and betrayal begins again. Don't blink.